What's up, everybody? Welcome to Podcast Now, Back to the Past. I'm Alex, and in this video, I want to talk about Devil May Cry 5 in 2023 and my vastly changed opinion from when I first played this game. So I want to do kind of what we do in these videos, walk you through the story of when I originally played this game, what happened, and then right now when I played the game and what happened. And I really am being dead honest. I have a vastly different opinion of this game now versus what I did back in time. So let's talk about the past first, and we'll walk our way through when I was playing this game a few days ago. So the first thing you probably need to know is I'm not a die-hard Devil May Cry fan. In fact, the most knowledge I have of this game and the franchise, the lore, actually comes from the movie recap that's in DMC5, right? So when you start the game, at the bottom, it kind of walks you through the first 4 games, the story. I know I've played at least one of these games in the past. I can't tell you which one. I can't tell you when, but I know for a fact that I have definitely played at least one of these games before because I had a general understanding of what I was getting myself into when it came to the gameplay and Dante, of course, right? Things like that. So I've definitely played one, but I don't know when, where, how, why, all those, general questions. So I would not consider myself a diehard fan of this franchise. And that's really, in terms of pre-DMC5 coming out in the first place, that's what you need to know. Now, when this game came out, I had the channel, and this is going to kind of be important as we walk through this story. I had the channel, and I would do live streams on new games when they had come out. I still do that from time to time, but what I've realized, and what I've come to find out, I suppose, is that they don't oftentimes do all that well. So this was early on in the channel. The viewership just in videos weren't that good, and I did a live stream for DMC5. And I think maybe there was like 3 people watching. It was pathetically low. I think even for where we were as a channel, or I guess I was, my wife was, I think, in the live stream as well. And I think the live stream still exists. You can, I think, watch it. But I had played it, and I played about an hour, hour and a half of it for the live stream. And I think there were internet issues, if I'm remembering correctly. So it was choppy in terms like the live stream. So maybe that was stopping people from watching it as well. But extremely low viewership. Internet was all choppy. And then also the game itself just did not click with me whatsoever. But I did get it day one because I was playing it, I think, day 1, day 2 for the live stream. But I bought it day 1. I bought it full price. So they did get my full money. Now, I think I traded into GameStop or Amazon, or so I traded it in for sure, as I no longer, I think, have the physical version, which I do like physical versions nowadays, so that was my mistake. I shouldn't have done that. However, at the time, I thought it was the right move because it just was not clicking. I did not enjoy it. I felt like I was missing nothing by giving it back. And as far as it goes back then, that's it. Like, I played it. I bought it day 1, full price, live streamed it. The live stream was a disaster on the channel. Nobody watched. Nobody cared. The internet was choppy. And then also, I just wasn't having fun. Now, when I live stream, I definitely like to be engaged in the chat and with people, so I wasn't really focused on the game, so maybe that had some of it as well, but ultimately I gave it away. Now, fast forward to now, and we're in a little bit of a lull with gaming, right? We're in between big releases. I've played the big releases, waiting for the next ones, and so generally what I'm trying to do, at least this year, when I have these free times, is go back and play games for this channel, right? Sometimes I'll do videos on games that I didn't just play, but other times I want to play the game, especially if it's this, like playing it for the first time. So I believe this game was on PlayStation Plus. It had to have been because I got it for free. I was scrolling through the PS Plus games that are, there's hundreds of them, right? I come up on Devil May Cry 5 and I say, oh my God, this is a game that actually is kind of well respected. I asked my friend, I remember seeing out, around the internet back when I, played it and hated it that one time. This game was well received, especially after the reboot, right? The reboot came out. It was so weird. It was so different. A lot of people did not take to that. And then this game came out and people genuinely enjoyed it. And I was thinking, okay, I must have missed something. There's got to be something. But I mean, also factually, I've changed a little bit. I think I've always been pretty like open and welcoming to all sorts of different game genres in my kind of personal library. But I would even say over the last 3, 4, 5 years, I'm willing to play just about anything. Racing games and fighting games, those are kind of my weak spots, I think, generally. But a game like DMC5 should work. It should work for me, and it absolutely didn't. So maybe I've changed, and I did. I will say that. I know it's taken me a while to get to this point. I've absolutely changed, and I do like this game. I don't think I would say love, but I do want to talk about, my feelings of it, a 2023 review. So when it comes to the story, I think it takes a while to get going, okay? I actually do enjoy the story, but I have to be on record because I was actually sometimes on with a friend of mine on Party Chat, or even my wife was sitting next to me. She would watch some of the cutscenes, and I would say, like, okay, I'm not into this story at all. So there's 20 chapters in the game, and I'm dead serious. I feel like the game starts to pick up around the exact halfway point. Chapter 10, which I believe is when you start playing as Dante, is when he kind of comes back into the fold. That's where the game starts to shift in a couple different ways. Not all of them. I actually think the game was still pretty okay in the first half without Dante, but a lot of the extra stuff certainly followed him. So when he kind of re-enters the picture, let's say, and I believe it is chapter 10, it's the halfway, because I remember saying, oh, okay, literally halfway through the game, now the story is solid. Now, I am only, the story. I'm only talking about the story here. The story, I think, is pretty darn weak in the first half, and it gets stronger and stronger as the second half goes because more kind of mysteries are revealed, right? You kind of figure out who V is in case you didn't already, which I'll be honest, it got me, okay? I did not know. I should have known because V, Virgil, I mean, it makes so much sense. So I did not catch that. I kind of had a hunch like something was up with him, but I didn't know for sure. And then obviously as it's kind of revealed, the parts of V and Virgil and all that, I was like, okay, it's actually kind of cool. I actually kind of like it. I feel like the story kind of builds up to like chapter 10, 11, maybe even like close to chapter like 15, 16. And then once it becomes Virgil, the story changes so quickly and it only has like 2 or 3 chapters left. That is odd. I would say the story is easily, well, the characters, I mean, I have to consider that as well. Story and characters are probably the weakest thing of this entire game, okay? The combat is where it shines. But again, like, I don't know, the story's so hit or miss to me. I didn't like it, probably overwhelmingly or overall, but there are some good spots. But I would say all the good spots are from chapter 10 on. In terms of the characters, Dante freaking rocks, okay? I love this Dante a lot. Again, I don't have too much to base it off of, but I got the sense, or I've always gotten the sense kind of his personality, and I think he nails it. More older, and he's worn down. He's got the gray hair, kind of like this, but only it's all gray, right? His hair just in general. I mean, I love how he looks. I love how he acts. Dante is fantastic. I do believe he's the most fun to play as, although I have a lot of good things to say about Nero and V in terms of their gameplay, which we'll get to. But in terms of characters, I think he's extremely good. And to be honest, well, I mean, it's just my personal opinion. This is my review. This is my video. He is the best character by a lot. I don't think anybody else is even close to him. Nero kind of goes up and down, okay? And he's got some really cool moments, I'd say, towards the end. But for a lot of it, he's this like emo punk whiny. Sometimes he is whiny. He's this character that I cannot get behind. Like I can't, and there is a bit of campiness to these games. Like you have to kind of give them that they are wild. Like Dante has like a 1 minute, 1.5 minute long kind of like dance scene. He literally has like a break dance scene. And I was laughing. I mean, no joke. I was literally laughing on my couch. My wife was sitting next to me. I'm looking back where it happened. And I looked at her. I was like, what is going on? And I'll say, like, that's the part that I kind of lean into. I'm like, all right, I'm going to give you these over-the-top, just wacky things. And there are some wacky things throughout the entire game, not even just with Dante, that I'll give the game. Okay, there's a little bit of that cheesiness, that whatever you want to, I don't even know if it's cheesy, corny, over-the-top, whatever words you want to use. This game has it. I kind of lean into it. I laugh. It's almost cringeworthy, but it's right on that line where it's like, I'll give it to you. I'll give it to you because I'm kind of enjoying this part versus because, it doesn't really take it does, I suppose. It takes itself seriously, but it also doesn't. And again, I think some of the story changes, like leading up to one thing and then pivoting so quickly, it's like, you're not that much of a serious game with the story and these elements where I care all that much. I'm mainly looking for these over-the-top things, so I guess I'll give it to you. You know what I mean? It almost earns its right to pivot at weird times, not make sense, do silly, stupid little things. It kind of earns that because that's the game as a whole. So if you start to take it too seriously and then they throw these curveballs at you, it almost feels like it's kind of like bending genres when it really shouldn't. If you're not going to take yourself seriously, don't take yourself seriously. Or if you are, do it. And they try to play it both. And I would say that's even the case with some of these characters like Dante. Dante knows who he is. The character's been around for so long. I mean, Nero's been around for a little while as well, right? And he kind of goes back and forth. Now, V, oh my God, I have so many negative things. V, I think, is a horrible, horrible character. I don't like the acting. I don't really like how he looks. I think the hair, I mean, I like his hair. I guess if I wasn't losing my hair, I would like to kind of mimic his hair or Dante's, because his hair does look really good. But he says some of these, like, very poetic, like, Shakespearean things, and he's all so serious, but like the voice just doesn't match it. It doesn't work. Like I don't know what kind of vibes they're going for with him. Well, I guess I kind of do. And they're not achieving it, at least in my opinion. The biggest thing with V, well, two parts. Biggest thing to V is kind of his bigger role with Virgil, and then also his combat. I think V is incredibly fun to play as. And, we're going to get to the combat. That's his shining moment. So it's kind of mixed, because all these characters, the combat's really good. So when you get to play as them, you're like, all right, well, I have to sit through whatever stupid thing happens with these characters, whatever their dialogue lines are that I'm most likely not gonna like. But I also am very excited to have a chapter dedicated to this character so that I can play as them. It's very weird. It's a very weird game. Again, it's why I like it, but I do not love this game. Okay, I like this game. I would say I very much, I don't know if hated is probably the right word. I definitely disliked this game back in the day. Now I would say, it's kind of flipped, but I wouldn't go so far as to say that I loved it, because there's too many issues for me to ignore. So you have all that. Okay, character-wise, very spotty. Dante kind of leads the way. Virgil, I think, is okay. But when it comes to Nero and V, no thanks. I mean, honestly, no thanks whatsoever, specifically V. Now, when you get to the gameplay is the shining star of this game. It starts pretty good, and it only gets better. Dante being introduced, and again, I believe Chapter 10 is when you get to play as him. It's like, okay, like I'm in. And he's got, at the time that he gets introduced, he has like the most variation, right? You can choose the different guns that he can have. You can choose the different kind of hand-to-hand things he has. And it's like, okay, so immediately you're giving the player more freeway with this character versus the others, just immediately. And he is just really fun to play. I do prefer him. Okay, if I had to choose to play a character in this game, it would be Dante. But I guess I would rank, I probably could rank them in terms of fun, but they're all excellent. Like I think Nero may be my least favorite of that group, but he's really still incredible. Like I love the way he shoots. I love his abilities, right? The arms that then have different kind of modifications to them. I love it. I think he's a blast to play. And then obviously even towards the end, he kind of changes even more. And then V is so wild and different in terms of, controlling his little minions instead of, him. He only does the finishers. I mean, I think it works so well. Now, it basically becomes button mashing. My thumbs, like I would almost put my controller down and I would go like this with my two thumbs. I would just bam, bam, bam. And I mean, there was like synchronization because you have to plan out certain moves and stuff, or you can hold them down and they'll do different things, right? There's some planning. But V is a lot of button mashing. Yet again, I guess, like Dante and Nero, they're also kind of button mashing. He's just a different kind of button mashing, but that's not to take away from it. I liked it. I actually like button mashing just in general, and then using the bird, using the lion, or whatever this thing's supposed to be, like, they're really cool. Their abilities are really cool. His kind of Super Saiyan mode that I guess he has for his, his minions are great. Now Dante has, his kind of Super Saiyan mode as well. The combat is just extremely good, like all around. It started a little slow, and I think, like, when you start, the only thing you have to this game are, these characters that aren't too great. You lose Dante, like, immediately, like Chapter 1 or the prologue or whatever, so you're immediately kind of going to Chapter 2 without your best character and the thing to kind of carry. So now you're dealing with two characters that aren't so good, and their personalities are not so good, and then the combat. And you start, weaker, right? Because you have to level up, you have to get your orbs and sync them into abilities. But once you get going, I mean, the gameplay picks up, and the enemies, I mean, it's not just the actual gameplay of playing as these characters. The enemies, they're really good, and they mix things up. I think the bosses in this game are extremely good, right? Kind of the end of each mission boss, the destructibility of the world. This game looks really good. It looks really good, and they don't always flex. Like, sometimes they flex, I'd say, with some of the bosses, because even some of the early bosses, destructibility of, like, breaking down a building, like shooting a laser beam and destroying a building. Like there's some really, it's like, oh, look what we can do, right? Look at how cool we can be. So you have that. And then beyond that, I mean, it's a linear thing. Now I'll say it's a pro con, because I do actually think they are better than this, right? Because the best of this game is incredible. And then a lot of this game is very linear, go down this kind of like tunnel that looks like a blood tunnel, like the walls and the ceiling all look the exact same. I don't want to say laziness, but there is a lot of this game that's just kind of recycled, and it's not trying to like wow you in any way, which again is a pro and con. Con as in, I guess, how I just described it, but I'll be dead honest, pro, it's kind of refreshing. This isn't, I've talked about this with other games in the past. Evil West is one that comes to mind. Now, Devil May Cry is a lot older, right? It didn't come out in 2022, but I actually don't mind games that feel like the PS3, Xbox 360 era, right? Games that are more linear, the environments are not kind of like over the top, they're shorter. I do want to talk about that. This game is extremely short. Like there's 20 levels. They take, oh my God, they don't even take an hour each, and some of them are like 15, 20 minutes. I don't know how long it took me, but I do think it was probably like 12 to 13. Like it wasn't more than 15 for sure. I think it was just over 10, and I kind of like that. Like, now, I will say, going back in time to when this game first came out, I bought it. Would I be okay with a game, and I think I would, I mean, long story short, would I be okay with a game that comes out full price and it's like a 10, 12-hour game? I would personally be okay with it. I don't think everybody would. But I think it's kind of refreshing, because also a game like this cannot stay in your face for too long, right? I mean, I just talked about the story not being very good, some cliche moments, some cringy moments, the characters not being great kind of all around, right? You can't have them in your face for 20, 25, 30 hours, right? So this is an example of a game that kind of needs to get in, show you what it needs to show you, and then get the heck out, because it can overstay its welcome if it stays too long. And again, depending on how you look at that, good or bad, I look at it as kind of a positive. I'm dead serious. This was a game that I'm happy I played in this lull. I was looking for a game. I found it. I knew I didn't like it, very, very much didn't like it back in the day. And again, I was like, okay, maybe I missed something. And I do think the story got better. I think Dante is a great character, and the characters have their moments, the twists, things like that. And the gameplay is downright fun. And it's always fun to kind of go into a new chapter. And you play as Dante for like a long stretch of time towards the second half, but there is still some swapping. And it's like, okay, I'm enjoying playing as all of these characters. And then it's a game that gets in. You play each chapter. They're way less than an hour each, average, and then you get out. So now, where do I lie with DMC after this? I guess I'm a fan. You can be the judge if you actually think I really do. I think I'm a fan of this franchise. I would definitely play future games. I may even look to go back and play some of the past games. I'm definitely in. I would not say I'm like in love with it. I would never say that I love DMC5. Obviously, I don't give ratings and stuff, and these are just supposed to be, my thoughts and opinions, but it's a solid game. It's a game that I think is wild. Like, it's a wild time. And it's a wild, I've done some of the Yakuza games on this channel, and they're also wild times. I think DMC is much, much lower in like quality than some of the Yakuza games that I've played. Maybe it's just like a personal preference, but I definitely I enjoyed it. And if they want to make a 6 or whatever comes next for the franchise, I will definitely try it out and try to be as objective as possible. So let me know what you all think in the comments. What you think of DMC5? Make sure you're all subscribed, bell icon turned on, and I hope to see you all on the next video.